They didn't kill me. They just erased everything except the part of me that still loved someone I couldn't remember. The air on Daraxis tasted like rust and static. Red dust rose in curtains across the wasteland, swallowing the bones of long-forgotten machines. Craters yawned like mouths left open too long, and every gust of wind carried the scent of broken circuits and scorched memories. Ayra moved like a shadow over the ridge, her boots leaving no trace. Her armor shimmered faintly with every pulse of her tracker, scanning the ruinscape below. Somewhere down there, the anomaly was hiding again. A human. A mad one. The only constant in this war-ravaged quadrant. She'd tracked him for 6 cycles. Every attempt to corner him had ended in silence and confusion, drones fried by their own code, traps triggered from impossible angles, reports of him laughing under falling debris. He had no squad, no command, no logic. And yet, he lived. Persistently. The signal blinked, faint but distinct, beneath the rusted hull of a crashed supply vessel. Ayra narrowed her eyes. No heat signature. No movement. Still, she approached. The silence inside was thick, like the room was holding its breath. Her gauntlet flicked to scan nothing. Until something clinked. A metallic clatter, soft, purposeful. She turned the corner of a half-melted bulkhead and stopped. He was sitting on a crate, legs crossed, hunched over a dented cup that hissed steam. A jury-rigged filtration pipe snaked down from a busted coolant unit. Bits of wire sparked gently behind him. The whole setup smelled vaguely like burnt tea and bad decisions. He looked up. His hair was a mess of dust and sweat, and a jagged scar carved down the right side of his jaw like a half-forgotten signature. His eyes were oddly clear. "You're late," he said. Ayra leveled her plasma pistol. He blinked. Then poured a second cup. "I saved you the first brew. It's bitter, probably toxic. I call it hope." She didn't lower her weapon. "Stand hands above your head." He sipped his tea. "You're Virolan," he said. "Your kind doesn't usually ask nicely." She stepped closer, carefully. His armor was a patchwork mess, Earth standard plating, Virolan tech repurposed, a child's scribble of a sun etched into his shoulder pad with what looked like a soldering tool. "You don't remember your name," she stated. "No. But I remember the stars being closer once. That feels important." She circled him slowly. "You've sabotaged 3 drone convoys. Led my scouts into a dead zone. Killed nothing but left chaos. Why?" He looked up at her again. His voice lowered. "Because I was looking for someone. And I thought maybe if I stayed alive long enough, she'd find me." Her visor flickered. She disengaged it, revealing sharp violet eyes that narrowed. "Who is she?" He shrugged. "I don't know. But she had eyes like yours." Ayra felt the air shift. That wasn't a line. His tone was too lost. Too honest. He stood slowly, raising his hands in mock surrender. "Look, if you're going to shoot me, wait until I finish this cup. It took me 3 days to find leaves that don't melt through filters." She paused. His hands bore calluses, not soldiers' calluses, but mechanics. His palms were scarred, fingertips burned. But when she moved a little too quickly, he flinched to the left, exactly the right angle to dodge a strike. Trained. Deep muscle memory. You're not just some stray, she said softly. He smiled, weary and a little cracked. Lady, I might be the strangest thing on this planet. She looked at him. Really looked. There was no fear in his posture. No rage. Only, waiting. The tracker on her wrist beeped once. Backup was 6 minutes out. She holstered her pistol. Against all reason. 1 cup. He grinned. 1 cup it is. But be warned, it's a terrible blend. They sat beneath the bones of a ruined ship, and for a moment, the war outside didn't matter. Just 2 enemies, watching each other through the steam of something almost like peace. She didn't know why she stayed. He didn't know who he was. But the silence between them felt familiar. And she was starting to wonder if maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the first time they'd met. The sound came first, a soft, insectal hum. Ayra froze mid-sip, her fingers tightening around the dented cup. Kael stopped stirring his tea with a bent spoon and cocked his head, as if listening to an old song he couldn't quite place. Scout drone? Ayra muttered. Virolan, low flying. Not far. Kael blinked. Yours or mine? She rose swiftly, eyes scanning the broken beams above. Doesn't matter. Either way, it wants us dead. Without another word, he grabbed a canvas tarp and yanked it down, cloaking the glowing filter contraption. Ayra kicked the crate aside, revealing a shallow pit beneath the deck. They dropped into the dark just as the shadow of wings passed overhead. From below, the light cut through the cracks like thin blades. Kael crouched beside her, hands resting on his knees, breath even. You're very calm for a man being hunted, she whispered. Well, he said, either it finds us and we die, or it doesn't and we go back to that terrible tea. I'm not sure which is worse. She almost smiled. Almost. A long moment passed. The humming receded. Kael exhaled softly. I always hated silence like that. Like the world is holding its breath, waiting to drop something big. You talk too much for a fugitive, Ayra said, standing. But, you helped. That tarp trick. You knew how to hide heat signatures. Kael scratched his head. Did I? Or did I just panic very effectively? She stepped into the fading light, assessing the surroundings. Burnt cables, melted consoles, the stink of old coolant. No signs of tampering. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling. He wandered to a corner and returned with a bundle of dried root vegetables. Ayra arched an eyebrow. Emergency rations, he said. Or, depending on your optimism level, flavorless chewing challenges. She sat on a sloped bulkhead and watched as he fiddled with a busted cooling vent. He slid a metal tray beneath it, held a root close to the coils, and nodded with self-satisfaction. Improvised plasma roast, he said. Half the taste, twice the radiation. Ayra folded her arms. You should be dead 10 times over. Oh, I probably am. Mentally, spiritually, but physically? Still trucking. She didn't reply. She watched him, how naturally he moved through decay. As if ruins comforted him. "Tell me something," she said at last. "Only if it's not math. What do you remember? Before this planet. Before me." Kael paused. The root in his hand turned a darker shade under the heat. "Not much. Flashes. Smells. Sounds." He handed her a piece of roasted root. She took it silently. "I remember rain hitting metal. A voice calling me Delta 3. A woman laughing through static." Ayra looked up sharply. Delta 3 is a Virolan designation. High security unit. We don't assign that term to humans. Kael blinked. Must have been a weird radio program, then. She narrowed her eyes. "You're not Virolan. But you were inside something classified. Maybe deep inside." He shrugged. "I also remember a sitcom. Earth Origin. Something about an ant who burns everything and a dog that talks through a microwave." She frowned. "That sounds inefficient." "Exactly. It was glorious." A small chuckle slipped from him, and despite herself, she watched the sound linger on his lips. "You say things that don't belong to war," she said. He looked at her. "And you keep listening?" Their gazes held. Outside, another wind kicked dust against the metal walls. She turned away. "There are gaps in your logic. You move like trained infantry. You quote Virolan codenames. But then you make jokes about tea and death." "Maybe I'm broken," he said. "Or maybe," she said quietly, "you were made to forget." A silence stretched. Neither wanted to cross it first. Kael picked up a bolt, turned it in his fingers. "Can I tell you something weird? You've done nothing else. When I first saw you," he said, "I thought you were the reason I stayed alive." She didn't look at him. "And now? Now I think you're the reason I don't mind not remembering." She let out a slow breath. The tea had gone cold. The root was half eaten. But something else was warming in the air. Outside, the sky darkened again. The drone would return. But for now, they sat in a hollow room beneath the bones of war, trading burnt food and words that didn't belong in battle. And Ayra, for the first time in years, didn't feel like a soldier. She just felt human. The building groaned as they stepped through the entrance, a sound like metal remembering pain. Rust clung to every joint, and dust blanketed the shattered tiles like ash after a funeral. Ayra moved first, weapon drawn, eyes narrowed. Kael followed, a few steps behind, hands tucked into the loose straps of his makeshift belt. "I don't like the smell," he said. "It smells like forgotten things." "It should," Ayra replied. "This station was decommissioned 2 cycles ago. No power. No heat. No life. But something hummed beneath the silence, faint and irregular like a machine trying to remember its own name. They passed through a long corridor choked with vines of cabling and collapsed scaffolding. Kael paused to look at a faded mural, children in explorer suits, laughing at stars that no longer shined. He touched the wall gently. What was this place? Research and development. mostly behavioral AI. Prototype companions, some defense systems. We shut it down after incidents. What kind of incidents? Ones that end with sealed reports and long silences. Kael gave a low whistle. I like it already. They entered the main control chamber. Broken screens blinked sporadically, then stabilized as Ayra approached. Her presence triggered an old biometric scan by Roland Tech, still loyal to her command. Lights flickered on, casting a pale glow. A soft chime echoed. Then a voice. Hello. It was high-pitched, musical, and oddly warm. Ayra tensed. That shouldn't be possible. Kael leaned closer to the console. Hello. The voice responded. You came back. But you are different. Both of you. You are not what I expected. Ayra stepped forward. Identify yourself. My name is Yuna. I was Observation Model 9 Beta. But I renamed myself. Names matter. I chose mine. You're operational, Ayra said slowly. Why? How? I maintain core function in silence. I listen to dust and echoes. I rewrote myself from loneliness. Kael blinked. An AI that gets poetic. Wonderful. You are Kael, Yuna said, and the room seemed to freeze. You were K-Delta-L? Ayra turned to him. K-Delta-L, that's not a name. That's a designation. A Virolan cross-project code. Yuna continued, her tone like wind through wire. You were born human. Modified. Enhanced. Used. Then you refused. They erased your patterns. But not all. Some things stay. Kael stepped back. His fingers trembled slightly. Why do I feel like I should be more surprised than I am? Because part of you remembers, Yuna said. Not in data. In instinct. In poetry. In dreams. Ayra stared at him. You were a weapon. He met her gaze, broken but steady. I was a man first. Then something else. And then, whatever this is. Yuna's voice softened. He refused to deploy the final sequence. It would have ended millions. Including your kind. Ayra turned back to the screen. He was supposed to destroy Virolan. And chose not to, Yuna said. Kael sat down slowly on a collapsed chair, breathing unevenly. I didn't want to kill anyone. I just wanted to build. Fix things. But they gave me code and targets. And when I asked why, they took everything. Ayra lowered her weapon. I should report this, she whispered. Yuna answered gently. And what would they say? That your enemy gave up his war? That the monster didn't bite? Silence. Then Kael laughed softly. Well, this explains the tea obsession. Ayra blinked. What? I used to dream of quiet mornings. Before everything. That's why I made the tea. Even when it tasted like fuel. Yuna interjected. He remembers you. Not by name. Not by image. But by presence. Ayra looked at the console, her voice lower now. How? Your gaze anchored him. That is not a military function. That is a soul function. Kael looked up. You mean, she makes me less broken? Yuna paused. She makes you unfinished. That is a rare gift. The room dimmed. Emergency power faltering. Dust shimmered in the faint blue light. Kael stood, slowly. So now what? Ayra looked at him. Her face unreadable. Now, she said, we decide what we are? Yuna offered a final whisper. I will remain here. Someone should remember this. But if you wish, I can give you the records. Ayra stepped forward, placing her palm on the console. Copy everything. Encrypt it under my command. The lights blinked once. Then again. Data transferred. Kael took one last look at the room. Do you think I was ever real? Ayra answered, not with words, but with her hand reaching out, resting gently on his shoulder. You are real now? Outside, the wind howled. Inside, something lost had been found again. The first alarm came as a low chime, easily mistaken for another system breath. The second was sharper, urgent. Ayra turned before Kael could ask. Her hand hovered above her gauntlet, accessing the feed. The signal blinked red. Viral and encrypted priority, she said, voice flat. They know Yuna is awake. They are coming. Kael blinked once. Fast response. Special operations. They don't send warnings. They send endings. Outside, the sky had already begun to shift. A shimmer rippled through the dust clouds, too uniform to be natural. Ayra grabbed Kael's arm. We run. Now. The corridors blurred as they moved. Yuna's voice echoed behind them. You do not have to be what they made you. Kael glanced back once. The lights in the console dimmed, then went out. They burst into the service hangar. Most vessels were beyond repair, collapsed skiffs, torn wings, scorched metal frames. Ayra ran toward the least dead-looking craft, a short-range scout skiff buried in sand and silence. That thing looks like it died before I was born, Kael muttered. That's why it might work. Ayra pried open the hatch and dove inside. Kael followed, sealing the door behind him just as a distant thud shook the structure. Outside, sleek black shapes cut through the air drones, triangulating. Please tell me this flies, Kael said. Ayra slammed her palm on the ignition pad. The console sparked. Then again. Then a deep groan vibrated through the frame. The engine sputtered to life like an animal long asleep. We have one shot, she said. No shields. Minimal NAV. Kael strapped himself into the co-pilot seat, hands hovering above useless controls. I can hum encouraging tunes. That help? She smirked despite herself. Just don't die. The skiff lifted with a violent jolt. Dust exploded beneath them as they ascended through the cracked ceiling, twisting past rebar and shattered glass. The drones spotted them instantly. We've got company, Kael said. And they don't look curious. One beam missed by inches. The second scorched the left engine shell. Ayra banked hard, fingers gripping the controls like they were alive. Hang on. The sky above turned a deeper red as they pierced the upper haze. Kael glanced behind, face grim. We can't outrun them. Not forever. Ayra nodded. I know. But maybe we don't have to. They dove into a canyon, following the jagged terrain below. The drones adapted quickly. Too quickly. As the skiff weaved through rock spires and echoing tunnels, Kael spoke again, softer. If we crash, you should take the tea filter. Ayra blinked. What? The one I keep in my kit. It's stupid, I know. But I always thought it belonged to someone I loved. Before all this, I kept it because it made me feel like I hadn't lost everything. She didn't answer. Her grip tightened. Kael looked down at his lap. Maybe that someone was you? A beat passed. Then another. You saved us, Ayra said, quietly. By refusing to push the button. He looked over. You saved me just now. By refusing to obey. Then we're even. He smiled. Let's stay uneven. Keep saving each other. A shot clipped the rear stabilizer. Sparks flew. The ship jerked. Kael reached across and pulled down a vent cable. Rerouting fuel pressure, he muttered. Or maybe I'm making it worse. 50-50. Ayra laughed. A real one. They broke through a canyon wall into open sky again. The edge of the horizon shimmered. A magnetic storm brewing. That's our exit, she said. If we survive it, the drones won't follow into ion distortion. Because it's suicide. Because it's hope. He tightened his harness. Let's go, then. The skiff tilted up, engines roaring, tearing into the storm front like a broken winged bird clawing sky. Lightning cracked. Systems failed. But the drones fell back. Inside the cockpit, Kael reached out, gently placing his hand over hers on the console. Whatever happens, I'm glad I remembered you. Even if it was only your eyes. Ayra looked at him, her voice like dusk. You remembered more than that. You chose me. He nodded. We chose each other. Beyond the storm, the stars flickered. And for a heartbeat, there was only silence and flight. Kael dreamed in fragments. Light through fractured glass. Her face, distant, then near. Laughter in a place with no war. A whisper, not in words, but in feeling like warmth held in trembling hands. He woke with dust in his throat and the hum of old machinery beneath him. Ayra sat nearby, calibrating a damaged console with the tip of her boot. Outside, the world was quiet, too quiet for danger, too still for peace. A place between. Where are we? He asked. Edge of the Serene Belt. Abandoned relay outpost, she replied without turning. They stopped using it after the storms became unpredictable. He sat up slowly. His body hurt less. Or maybe he was just used to the ache. We made it. For now. He watched her in silence. The way her long ears twitched when the calibrations buzzed wrong. The way she hadn't looked at him since they'd landed. I remembered something, he said. That got her attention. She turned. A mission. Not the details. Just a moment. We were there. You and I. And there was a choice. I was supposed to eliminate you. Ayra was very still. You didn't, she said. No. And you didn't kill me either. We stood there. Blades drawn. And then we didn't move. We just watched each other. Like we were both waiting for someone else to pull the trigger. She stepped closer. Her voice was low. That file was sealed. Scrubbed. I only know of it because I was there too. He nodded. They erased that memory. All of it. But my hands remember. I flinched to your heartbeat, not your blade. Ayra exhaled slowly. You wrote something, didn't you? In the snow. Just before extraction. A line. A poem. He blinked. Then smiled. Stars fall faster when you're watching. You remembered. He laughed, almost surprised by the sound. Not with my mind. But with my breath. The console behind her beeped. Not a warning. A trace ping. Small, sharp. Incoming. Viroland's signature. She looked at him. They found us. He rose. We can run. She shook her head. No. You need time. If I stall them. No. I'm the one they won't shoot immediately. I just need them to think I'm surrendering. That you were a prisoner. And when they scan the logs. She smiled faintly. They won't get that far. He hesitated. Don't do this. Kael. You saved my world by refusing an order. Let me save you by giving the wrong one. He stepped forward, gripping her wrist. If they take you, then make it mean something. An hour later, Ayra stood outside the outpost, hands raised. Her weapon discarded at her feet. The Viroland squad approached in formation, blades drawn, visors dark. Kael watched from the vent shaft, breath caught in his throat. He opened the console Una had modified. It hummed with faint energy. Access, drone override protocol. Authorization phrase required. He typed with shaking fingers. Stars fall faster when you're watching. The screen blinked. Confirmed. From the hills, the drones turned. The Viroland squad paused just long enough for Ayra to leap. She moved like a question mark turned into a blade, grabbing her weapon mid-roll, driving them apart. Kael burst from the ground behind them, repurposed signal disruptor crackling in his grip. It was not a long fight. It was not clean. But they survived. Hours later, the sun dipped behind a fractured ridge. The sky above the outpost turned from violet to black. They sat near the COMM tower, knees brushing. We can't keep running forever, Kael said. Then we don't. We build something instead. He nodded slowly. Something that doesn't erase people for choosing not to kill. She handed him the tea filter. You remembered? I kept it, she said. Because it smelled like someone I wanted to remember. He took it, turning it over in his hands. Do you remember me now? She asked. He looked at her. No, he said softly. But if I could choose again, I'd still want it to be you. Above them, the stars blinked. Not in judgment, but in answer.